Hi, everyone. I've been away for some time. I'm really sorry. I'm dealing with myself after getting lost and experiencing difficult times. We all live in this world, and sometimes we find ourselves kind of depressed because of things that are happening around us, as human beings. And now I had to kind of retreat. I'm still recovering. It has been a very difficult year, a year full of dreams, desires, and looking for connections and looking to embrace the continent Africa, looking to work with African people, my people, and finding it so hard. And so today I thought to myself, share your thoughts as of course I'll always share my thoughts. I'm feeling a little bit better, but we all go through things, isn't it? And this is what this life is about. It's all about experiences and being honest with yourself and just sharing where you're at in many. I'm wearing this because it makes me feel cool. Now, this is about wait a second, what is the title of this video again? Oh dear. I think it's fighting your way through this world as an African. That's the subject of this. Fighting your way through this world as an African. Really trying to understand it all. What does it mean to be African? And what are the challenges that you encounter? And I think for me, it's just being an African. It's such a beautiful thing on this planet, the most beautiful thing ever. The fact that we happy. If I look at the videos of the continent, young kids dancing. We are the dancers. We dance and dance. When someone dies, we dance. When we are in pain, we dance. When we are hungry, we dance. And ever connected with Mother Earth through our feet. But also being different in this planet. And it's just really, there's lots of things that makes you wonder as an African, fighting through this life, or shall I call it fighting, or the journey through life as an African. What does that mean? And for me, this is a very beautiful question that I had this morning, just trying to figure out, what does it mean to be an African? What does it mean to be Black? What does it mean really to the core? And these are the questions that I have. And these questions, I do not base them in racial stories because I really don't believe in that. Yes, there's lots of things that has happened in the past that has made us to question where we at. But I'm not going to go through the journey of everyone, because of lots of people have their ideology in terms of this world, the unfairness of the world. There are lots of things that has happened in the world that has made us to lose balance, and lots of people would speak about the slavery, the colonization. Lots of people will talk about all these things that has happened in the past, and I do not identify myself through that. Maybe I'm kind of shallow, or I don't know, or maybe I'm really trying to really, what thing, I like this thing, you guys, and I like these things to be in the center, but they're not. And so it's me playing. I'll always play, especially at this present moment, because of I'm awakening and I ask questions, but my questions don't dim me. I don't want to find myself dimmed by the problems of the world. But I've got questions. So I have about, let me see, I'm going to question these questions as we go along, you guys, and just try to identify everything that I have in my mind. What does it mean? What do I mean when I say fighting through the world? For fighting through the world as an African, as an African. Now, the question one that I have, and I wish that we could talk about, and that always keeps me a lock. Sometimes I'm back, sometimes I hibernate, sometimes I'm back because I've got questions, and I live in this world and I see things, and I meet the most intelligent people. I'm very lucky because of I socialize, even though it does not seem so. I'm kind of open yet very private. And in this world of mine, I'm always surrounded with questions and answers. And there's lots of things that goes on in this brain of mine as Carol Matebula. You know me, you guys. I'm full of questions. So question number one. Now, and all these questions are based to my own people, my own African people. These questions are not to anyone else because I realize that these questions have to base them to ourselves. We should take out people because we always put other people, and other people have questions to their own kind. Of course, we are all similar, but yet we are not similar. We are different. And the questions that I have will be more relative to the one who looks like me. Probably they might not be really, really, really relative to ones who looks like me, but some of them who are wearing the pigment that I have, those who are given so much melanin in their skin will understand these questions. And these questions, they vary. The first question that I have is education. Education. My writing is really terrible, you guys. I don't know if you would see that. Education. That's my first question. Now, as Black people, what does education mean? Because I realize that the ones who block me the most in the world are my people. Because my people are the ones, since I've been, and I can say this because I'm one of those who have traveled and still traveling and still meeting the world, because I love to meet the world. I don't want to be in one tribe and one kind of people. I like to be around different kinds of people so I can hear different melodies. And to my surprise, I find that education, as we know it as Black people, does not define us. Because of most of us, we do not have our own education. And I'm talking about education when it comes to stabilizing ourselves, when it comes to us being able to structure ourselves in the world. We rely on education that was designed for us. And all of us, I hear lots of stories of the Egyptian time when the pharaohs were Black. The pyramids were designed by Black people. Civilization was brought into this world by Black people. And one day, all that vanished, and suddenly it was Black. And there was nothing that the Black person owned no more because of somebody stole it. Now, my question is that if you come to my home and you steal the cell phone, you steal it, and this cell phone has all the knowledge I have. How come after we say they've stolen it, and even today, the kids who are coming, those who are pregnant today, they're going to be taught by somebody else because of deeply in our soul that we say that our education has been stolen. They stripped us naked. We were slaved. But when are we waking up? And I'm asking these questions because I am puzzled. I'm really, really puzzled. As you know, you guys, 6 years ago, I moved from Belgium. I was in South Africa for the death of my father. And after I buried my father and I did the rituals of what the elder daughter should do in doing my responsibility of burying my father in dignity, which I did that, and I honor myself for doing that. And then I left South Africa. And also being in South Africa, just to tell a little bit about me, that the fact that I don't know my siblings, I don't know anyone where I come from, which makes it makes me kind of researching the world of where do I belong. And of course, I always want to belong to my people. I always want to know what makes us, what makes us tick, what makes us. But then I come back to this education because I will tell you why I mentioned education. So in this education, we've got, I'm gonna put 5 steps. 1 step, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this, we've got the graduates, those who have been to universities, those who have been to different, and with these universities, it goes with layers of who has what education and what. And then, after they graduate, we have those who have studied in colleges, you know, kind of, oh, that's how this education is a standard. There's always a standard in class. Yes, those who studied in city colleges and etc. And then you have those who come up with education from cultural, those who have studied from the back home, and I think I'm one of those. Number 4, we've got those who come from a very, 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 very wealthy environment in our community, whereby the financial and education and structural of society belongs to them. So they feel like they've got all the wealth that the Africans has to claim in this world. So we've got universities, unis, and then we've got city colleges, city college, and then we've got traditional education or cultural, traditions and cultural, tradition and cultural. And then we've got high class society in our community. The ones who have it all, the ones who we look at that they are untouchable. They are untouchable. So I shall call them the untouchables. 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 And then we've got those who come from poverty, whereby they had all the skills, they had all what it takes, but they were already buried under the umbrella of, you come from poverty, you are nothing, you are, you know. And so now my question is, the ones who come from the universities, you know, those who acquire the masters and they've got their degrees, and then they are called, they've got a name next to their name, doctor who. And these people, they look down on others because of they are using a system that they don't even know. And this systematic, it becomes, those are the ones who becomes our leaders in this politics. They're the ones who control and rule, the rest of the others. This is the education level where I'm trying to define and try to understand, where do I belong? And I'll tell you where my umbrella is in these 5 characters that I put down. Then we've got the so-called city college, and city college are the ones who somehow their parents had a little money, and then they could put on so that they can go and acquire so-called education. At the end of the day, all these things are education, but they've got layers, and they are designed away by the founders of this so-called education, which I don't blame them, but it's their system, and at least they had a system. And then we've got traditions, our traditional education, where we learn about our spirituality, we learn about our art, we learn, and these things are so dear to us because of it's things that we can relate with, and these are the things that we grow up smelling, we grow up seeing, and these things are defining us because of the things that from the moment we came out of our mother's womb and our mother's bellies, we could see them and we grow up with them, and then suddenly our family, some of our family, they impose on us that we understand our traditions and cultures, and can we survive through that? So that's number 3. And number 4, the elites, those who are in the African community, who have completely remove themselves from the rest of the society, believing that they belong to a certain a standard. You know, they when you speak to them, and I've met these kinds of people. Those are the people such as the kids of Mandela, the kids of the Desmond Tutus, the kids of, you know, those, their fathers are well known in the world. They became a part of so-called the elite families, such as, you know, Nelson Mandela. They say he was a member of the Masons and etc. So they've got a kind of and when you meet them, these people, they've got this attitude of saying that you are nobody, even the way they behave. And then you've got the number 5, you've got the poverty kids who are suffering from the scars of what has happened in Africa centuries and centuries and centuries ago. And these kids, even today, they are still being oppressed by the fact that Africa it's wounded, and these wounds, these kids are being insulted, these kids are being judged, these kids, whatever they try to do, they are always pressurized, but they are pressurized by the rest of the world. And above all, they are pressurized by so-called the university graduates of the Black nations. They are pressurized by the city colleges, whereby the city colleges themselves, they are pressurized by the university graduates. And then you've got the traditionals who are very, very strong and doing their best to set the standard and to set the tone of what it is to be an African. And then you've got these elites who are really, really selling the continent Africa, who are selling the pride of Africa, because they've got a certain ideology of African. And then, of course, you've got the poverty kids. So I, myself, I belong to the number 5. I came from poverty, and poverty meaning that when I say poverty, poverty has lots of meaning to me. It's not food, because of Africa, it's not a poverty land, because we've got the richest soil in the world. I never remember me as a child growing up in Africa going without food. Never. And when I say food, I'm not talking about the standard, the food that the world has classified as a standard, where you have to have your breakfast, and then you have to have your lunch, and you have to have your nibbles, and then you have to have supper, ever eating, never stopping. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about eating to acquire energy, eating because of your body needs it, but not eating because of you can. I ate because of I needed energy, and there was always something in my family to eat. If I didn't eat it in my own yard, I'll eat it to the next door neighbor, because in Africa, every child can eat wherever. As long as they eat and you are there, you've got a plate to eat. But I'm talking about poverty of not having enough knowledge, not to be taught that the knowledge that we are teaching you today, this will be knowledge that will take you around the world. So on my way, I was very lucky. So even though I grew up from that poverty of not being given enough knowledge, so-called education of the West, the education that was designed so that every human being can be the same, I was not given that. So that made me a child with lack of knowledge into the blind minds of so-called the new African society. And that's where my depression came, and that's why it always comes and affects me. And I try to find out, how do I blend in? I share my ideas, I share my values, and quickly you go into this self-pity me, trying to find out, do I really belong? And what makes me belong? Because as an African, is selling my culture. As an African, sharing my traditions. This is not valued enough by my own people. And this is me. My struggle has came from that, because of the world values my traditions very much. The world wants to know what makes Africa tick. The world wants to know what makes you really flourish. But then when you move out from the world and enter into your own space where definitely Africa needs healing. The Black nations needs healing. That's when you get scared. Number one, the university graduates, they see anything that has no certificate, so-called certificate, those papers that collects dust. If you do not have that to their world, either you are traditionally educated, either you are traditionally prepared and ready to navigate the world with ABC that was given to you clearly into the world of the Black nations. You are not. If you write and you write with a little bit not knowing where to put all these pinpoints, points. There's so many points in these languages of theirs, which is, let's talk about English. I'm one of those who struggles a lot with writing English because English, it's not my mother tongue. And I'm very proud to say that I do not know how to write English to the core. But I'm well educated by the traditions and cultures of where I was brought up. Now, having to go to London, it was for me to share my traditions and my cultures with the people. I did whatever in my power to try to show people how does my traditions work as an African in Africa to deal with the body. That was dismissed by my own people. I did things to gather people around to say, now, if the African way does not work, let me do something called the Vibrantly African and put people together of the African descendants. Either you're from Jamaica, either you're from America, either you're from Africa. Let's deal with our spirituality together in one humble place and work together and showcase what we can do. That was rejected in many ways. In many ways, I was given buildings that were not clean. My stuff was stolen by the Black people. There was a lot of messages that were sent to me. You think you're better. You're not going to come. How difficult this is. How difficult it is to try to stand in the world navigating as an African. What do African community wants? How, as an African child, an African woman, an African daughter, an African boy, an African son, an African mother, an African father, what makes us celebrate one another? Because, of course, we know the standard of the universities, it's not ours. We say that we were once upon a time the rulers of the world because of Africa. Once upon a time, it was a ruling land. And we all go back to it, making it so romantic and putting so much romance around it. But in practical, it does not work because people like I who are natural, who embrace the cultural, who embrace the traditions, we are judged as non-educated ones. And we are not judged by anyone else but by our own kind, whereby the other people would pay lots and lots of money to see us showcasing the traditions. And quickly we say, they're gonna steal. Are we then working on pause? Are we really on a movement as African people, or we are paused? How much the education system still controls and rule and destroy us because of we chose to destroy ourselves. And this is really my depression in this world. I go in the world, and when I say depressed, I'm not saying that I'm lying down, beaten up, because I can never be a woman who lies down and get beaten up. I think my depression lies in I'm lonely as an African, because I can never be understood by the next African. And I try to understand the next African, but we speak Chinese when we are next to each other. So the Chinese people, when I say Chinese, I find your language very, very intriguing, very not so easy to understand. So forgive me, but it seems like we're speaking a foreign language when we are next to each other. And it's my biggest struggle on this planet. Belonging to the African community, just as I am. Sitting down with someone of Africa, someone who comes from Ghana. At this moment, I'm working with the most amazing sister from Ghana. And we share ideas. We talk about the difficulties. And I see us growing. And she's an amazing sister. But it's one. We are many, 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 many of us. How come we don't come together and stop talking about other people's race of color? Let's stop talking about racism. Because I find that the fact that there's a racism out there in the world, and we are so lonely among each other. Of course, racism affects us more than anyone because we never have homes in our own homes. We always feel safer when we are with others. So when others doing their own thing, quickly we feel left out because you really, really don't know who's gonna welcome you to their home and welcome you just for you. If you're welcomed by men, it's either they want sex, they'll tell you about your hips from here to Tokyo. They'll do all sorts of things in terms of desiring you from the outside, but not desiring you from the inside. And I find myself very close to my brothers because of my brothers never come to me to understand what is the knowledge you have. Which cultural did you come from? Let's share our culture and see how we can go together. Do you understand what I mean? And this makes an African child, an African daughter, an African son, an African man to be very lonely in this world. So what does this education mean? Education, it feels as if it's the main thing. So we are either extremely educated, we are probably have acquired some form of education, and that's the only thing that we embrace. And then we'll embrace how much I'm writing Carol ... The more I understand how to put these points, the more I'm an African. Isn't that maybe we are lost? Isn't that maybe we are running after an empty vessel that can never make us who we want to be? Where are we going? What is the landing point of being an African? Where are we landing? I always ask. I go around the world and I meet. And you realize this loneliness as you travel around the world. You realize that, like now, I've just moved back to Belgium, and suddenly I'm invited from left to right. I've been already in people's homes more than I don't know how many times. And in London, where I decided, and I took 6 years, and I said to myself, I'm not going to interact with anyone of any color, not because of racism, because I was doing research. I'm going to mingle with my own African people, and I ended up with the extreme Muslim beliefs of the Black people. I ended up with some religions of some sort, the real Jews of the Black people. I ended up with so-called the Pan-Africanist, and I ended up with the extreme Afrocentric mindset. And at the end of the day, I asked myself, where is the cultural of spirituality and calmness? Because in all these things that I have been, I found myself as if I was a yo-yo, or a tennis throw from one side to another, tennis played from one side to another, ever getting confused, never landing point. Because I truly believe that the landing point would happen when there's organizations where people don't only talk politics, where people don't only talk religion, where people don't only talk what has happened in the past, who has got us, who has destroyed us, and just a landing point of, isn't that maybe high time that we stand and realize that we're actually very wounded? I give you an example why I think it's so. That's why I get so depressed, because I would like to get to a place of my own people and just be there where we're celebrating who we are and showcasing our traditions, but not showcasing our traditions by judging. There's so much judgmental in our community, where I felt lost, and I was judged from here to Tokyo. And I thought to myself, what is my world as an African woman? What is my world as an African queen? Where do I belong as an African woman? To my own society? Because of course I know out there in the world I belong. When I go to the world has understood who I am and what are melodies I'm singing in this world, but my people not. Even today, if I could ask one person to comment on the subjects that I'm talking about, no one will comment. I've given people workshops of Vunkua where I taught them the best, but what I was attacked upon, nobody gave me feedback. Nobody said anything. The last thing that they were written around me is that, be careful of her. She's a money monger. She wants money. She does not give you this certificate. And I'm thinking, there's this stupid certificate. What is damn certificate if we do not understand the message behind the knowledge? And so for me, I'm saying that African people have to re-question the word education. What does education mean? And where are we going as society? How much are we going to help the number 5 column there? Poverty, and the poverty of the soul, and self-understanding and self-mastery. How are we going to self-master ourselves when we are actually taking so-called the Islam, the nation of Islam? I've been around them, I have had few things, and quickly I couldn't breathe because of the ideology that it was all about me, and the ideology that I know, and never getting together to get those who are strong. Because I think it's always nice when people are strong together. There's all this separation of, we know, you don't know, you listen and shut up. How are we going to grow? As we say that racism and systematic racism in the world, it's designed to tell us that they know what they do and we don't know. My question is, are we really aware that their system works? Because it keeps shining because of their singing togetherness, even though they have their disputes. But at the end of the day, when it comes to learning, all they come together and they showcase the knowledge that they have learned in their own ways. And then they put it together and they create the world tomorrow, whereby in Africa, that's not the case. And for me, that's where my struggle as an African comes from. How you could appreciate me for me being me, not because of I have to take your ideology of religion, or I have to take your ideology that I have to hate others because of others what they have done in the past. For me, the question of what's his name there, Kanye West. I love what Kanye West said, and I love what he's trying to do. There's something about that brother that I really adore. And everybody calls him crazy because he stands very strong. He stands for himself. He has created a new ideology of an African. What does an African mean in his world? And he shines. And I'm one of those who says, why don't we create a new African outlook in our world? Instead of believing in all system that does not work. It never worked. Why don't we change it by creating new ideologies? Today, I'm wearing this T-shirt, and it's called Vunkua with my logo. And this is something that I have created through the art of cultural and traditions. Traditions would win. And those who didn't grow up in the African continent, and they are Black people who have, you've got a knowledge. But come with us, not believing that Africa has nothing to offer. Do not think that because of you not coming from Africa and you are a Black person, you've got more such understanding than me, and that's what breaks. So my analyzation in this so-called education dilemma of the African community is that we need to rethink education, and we need to rethink how lonely are we through using these separations of these 5 columns that I have written. So I miss Africa. I miss to be in a room where I am light and bright as I am, and I'm not being put into a corner because people are terrified of this Africa that I have created. I had to reinvent new Africa, Africa that creates tomorrow instead of Africa that lives in the past. And this makes me question and makes me go into moods where I'm trying to find out how can we heal as Africa to go forward. How can we understand our economy? How can we rebuild things that's gonna better our future for tomorrow? And the answer is that we need to heal spiritually. We need to understand that for the new generation to come freer, we need to free ourselves, and we need to trust in what the other is doing. Not only talk about racism, not only talk about the other people of other pigment, of how they're blocking us, that it's old fashioned and it's useless. It's never gonna take us anywhere. I miss you, my brother. I miss you, my sister. I miss you to sit down on the table with fire and ask me, where have I been? How has been my journey in this world? How have I mapped myself in understanding myself today? How can you help me with what you have been in? What journey have you walked upon? What are the understanding that you understand that I can take a bit of your understanding and you take a bit of my understanding, and will we ever fix the puzzles of what it is to be an African? So as an African, you do not fight to navigate this world, but you feel like you belong. You're a part of the ones who are like you, the ones with melanin, the ones with a skeleton that can move and awaken the earth. That's who you are. Your rhythm, the trees understands. When you stand on the ground and you dance as an African, the rhythms of the oceans shakes with you. Mother Nature moves with you. That's why the world says, if there's no African movement, we can never understand. So how do we then move into depths of the ocean movement that we own as African people? So this is Carol again, coming today, confused as usual, saying, I miss my people. And I miss my people in us talking about, where have we been? What have we embarked upon? What knowledge did we get? What kind of stories did we get from our great-grands and our grannies, our mothers, and etc.? What did we eat and how did we eat it? How was it prepared? Let's get together and share, as I did with Vibrantly African, and lots of people scar the Vibrantly African. It was called, somebody said to me, why did you call it African? You could have called it anything else. And I keep on saying, Vibrantly African, it is. And I'll find ways on how to move forward in a way that we can meet each other and love each other for the fact of our footsteps in this world. Because we leave in our mark. Every now and then we walk, we leave our mark. Even after we have died, our mark lives on. Isn't that high time that we start respecting that? Now, let's evaluate education. Let us evaluate the systematic that we have created among ourselves of separating ourselves from the high standard to the low standard to the poverty. We do not have luxury for us to judge ourselves in that way. We are all in one package, and we need to heal each other and see each other as one. So this is Carol Matebula saying, I'm back, and tell me your thoughts. This is my thoughts today, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is Carol Matebula saying, let us celebrate, let us get together, let us heal. I miss you, brother. I miss you, sister. If you think I've got more light, find out where it comes from. It might be something really, really that's going to fascinate you. Share with me you. Don't share with me your body. You're not a penis. You're a man. I'm not a breast. I'm a woman. Get to know me for me. Let's cry together our tears. But let's not only be bitten by tears. Let us create the new Africa that we want to see. This is Carol Matebula speaking her thoughts. Thank you so much. Bye for now.